Welcome to 51 Stories. This week's short story is a light urban fantasy where you find yourself stranded in an airport waiting for a delayed flight with a cowboy willing to buy you a lot of drinks. Here's this week's short story titled The Bards Lounge. You keep telling yourself that you don't hate Thanksgiving, but you're struggling to remember what you like about it. Denver Airport is a zoo this time of year. Stressed out parents, kids who either can't sit still or fall asleep everywhere, old people who haven't seen an airport since they could smoke at the gate, and old men harping on the good old days when they could smoke at the gate. Unlike all these people, though, you're not going home for the holidays. In fact, you volunteered for this business trip to have an excuse not to. There's that static crackle as some overworked staff member picks up the mic. Everyone shuts up, ears pricked up like raiding raccoons caught in the porch light. Ladies and gentlemen, we regret to inform you the gate erupts in a collective moan straight out of Dante's Inferno. 2-hour delay. Dads and old-timers glare as you grab your one bag and make your escape with the unencumbered swiftness of a single man about to enjoy a stiff drink. The bars and restaurants are all overrun with raccoon people. The company's got you in business class, so you follow the signs to the lounge. You walk for a good 15 minutes and get turned around. You take an escalator, turn down a hallway, and there it is. A tinted glass door with the Bards Lounge written in a Gothic font. You walk up and scan your boarding pass next to the door. Nothing happens. You curse under your breath, scan it again. Not working, eh? You look up. There's a guy in a cowboy hat and a leather duster behind you. Long black hair and a beard. He looks like he just walked off the set of a Western movie. No, I don't. My ticket. He waves his hand. The doors slide open. You blink at the guy. Motion sensor, he says, nodding for you to step through. You hurry inside, glancing back at the scanner over your shoulder. Name's Everett, the man says. You look like you need a drink. Whiskey? You introduce yourself as he ushers you past leather chairs and mahogany tables fitted with dim reading lights. A man in a 3-piece purple tweed suit and glasses with a faint matching glow looks up as Everett leads you straight to the bar. 2 whiskeys, Everett tells the bartender. Certainly, Mr. Everett, we've got, the bartender begins. The strong kind will do, Benny. Everett cuts him off, plopping himself down on a stool. And smoky as all tarnation. The bartender nods and pours the drinks. Everett slams his hat down on the counter and stretches his neck with a loud crack. You take your coat off and put your bag at your feet, at a safe distance from this guy. You like whiskey, son? He asks, combing back his hair with his fingers. Actually, I'm more of a... Don't finish that sentence. Tonight, you like whiskey and you drink it neat, like a man stuck at an airport. You shut up and nod. The bartender serves your drinks. Everett picks up the crystal tumbler, inspects it for a moment, then empties it in one swig. He doesn't even put it down before signaling the bartender for a refill. So, where you headed? He asks. You take a sip, trying your best to hide the discomfort of the burn. Omaha, you cough. Nebraska? I ain't been there since the war. You knot your brow. What war? Iraq? Everett lets out a burly laugh. Some of the suits sitting around the lounge look up from their phones. You take another sip, making yourself small. Nah, Omaha. Mind if I call you Omaha? I'm talking about the Penumbra War. Nasty stuff. Wordless like you wouldn't know. You're just lucky we won that one. He winks at you, then raises the tumbler in solemn salute. Grateful for the light, aware of the dark. You shoot the bartender a look. He just shrugs and goes about his business further down the counter. Everett slams the glass down, wiping his mustache with a big hand. You ever feel like these planes conspire to keep you from where you're trying to go? You give a careful nod, very aware that Everett looks like he's packing some muscle under that worn duster. He leans in, an enigmatic smile underneath the bristles of his beard. They are, he whispers. At this point, you've done the math, and the free drink isn't worth this level of crazy. Speaking of which, I think they just called my flight, you say, reaching for your bag. Everett grabs your arm. No, they didn't, he says, grinning at you. Listen, Omaha, you're in the Bards Lounge. Ain't many wordless can say the same, so word of advice? Treasure the damn experience. He lets go of you, waving the bartender back over for refills. You look around. At this point, you realize that there's definitely something off about the rest of the clientele. They aren't the usual Diamond Elite VIP type assholes you glare at as they pass your line at the gate. A guy in a white cloak is reading from a long roll of parchment stretched across the carpet. A woman in an emerald ball gown steps over the tail end of the scroll on her way out, carrying what's clearly a hunting rifle meant for elephants, or something larger. In the far corner, a man in a fur coat is watching you, petting what looks like a black panther perched at his feet with a thick leather collar and chain around its neck. Finish your drink, Everett says. Dazed, you sit back down, downing the whiskey. The bartender tops you off without asking. Is that thing real? You say, nodding discreetly at the animal. What is this place? Everett laughs heartily. You got your family in Omaha? Huh? No, you say, the panther purring across the room. I'm on a business trip. Is he allowed to have that thing in here? Your question goes unanswered. You're not going home for the holidays? Everett says instead, a grave look of concern on his face. No, haven't been home for years. Unfazed by the utter weirdness around you, this shocks him. Years? True lie. Where are you from then? It might be Everett's expression, might be the whiskey, but you tell him. It's just, I live in the city. My family's more small town folk. You regret saying something when he grabs your shoulder and gives you a long, stern look. That's why it's hard to respect you wordless people. You don't respect yourselves. I'm sorry, you say, taken aback by his frankness. You keep saying that, wordless. What does that mean? It means your life lacks poetry, son, Everett says. You realize there's no condescension in his tone, more something akin to pity as he continues. You don't appreciate your lives, take your families for granted. Yet you're the ones who actually lose them. When a bard dies, we can still commune with them through our creations. They live on in our family poems and the actions they inspire. When your parents die, they will be gone forever. Sure, as long as your memories of them live on, then part of them still exists, but once the last one who remembers their name is gone, so are they. Do you know the name of your great-great-grandfather? You stop in the middle of raising the glass to your lips, pondering the question. Can't say that I do. Everett gives you a look as though you've regrettably proven his point. My great-great-grandfather was gunner of the line of Everett. He built my family's ranch on the Dark Divide. He's the reason we prospered on a land that wanted to break our spirits and suck the marrow from our withering bones. Gunner's poetry was that of defiance. An ass dragging his entire bloodline across those barren fields. An oak gripping the poisoned soil until it had no choice but to nourish him. A cliff face standing stern in the howling winds of the future. Your wide eyes are locked on Everett as he stares off into space, a fierce expression on his face. Then he seems to remember himself, looking back at you. See? Gunner's poetry of defiance is alive and burning hundreds of years later. Do you have anything like that in your blood, son? Part of you wants to get up and leave right then and there, but either the whiskey or some of that defiance is rushing through your bloodstream. My parents own their own company now, you say, painfully aware of how mundane it sounds. They were both laid off during the financial crisis, built their own dealership from the ground up. To your surprise, Everett listens closely, his eyes urging you to go on. Dad runs the business, Mom does the books, you say, smiling wryly as you add, it put me through college and paid for my first apartment. Everett nods slowly and smacks your shoulder with his big hand. That's what I'm talking about. To the poetry of defiance. He raises his glass, and you join him in the toast. A sense of pride fills your chest, and forgetting entirely about your surroundings, you begin to tell Everett about your parents and your siblings, and how they've all overcome the odds in their own ways. An hour later, you suddenly remember your flight. You stand up, head swimming with whiskey and stories. Everett steadies you by grabbing your arm. It was a pleasure making your acquaintance, he says. Drinks are on me. You reach your hand out, but the big man shoots up to give you a hearty embrace. It's Thanksgiving. A bit overwhelmed, you pat him on the back. Thank you, Everett. My pleasure. On your way out, you stop to look at the man with the big cat at the back of the lounge. The panther sits up on its haunches, watching you with glowing eyes. Better get on now or you'll miss your flight, Everett calls out from the bar. You turn and hurry out of the Bards Lounge, trying to remember which way you came from. Jogging along on unsteady legs, you eventually find your way back to the gate, only to discover that the flight to Omaha has been delayed another 30 minutes. You stop, staring at the families headed home. There's another flight boarding a couple of gates down. When your eyes focus enough for you to see the destination on the sign, you can't help but feel its destiny. You rebook your flight, and you go home for the first Thanksgiving in 4 years. It's also the first and only time you will ever set foot in the Bards Lounge. All right, that was the Bards Lounge. Bit of a weird short story, but it is what it is. I'm writing one of these a week, and sometimes they turn out strange. I still hope you enjoyed it, and there are a lot of other stories for you to discover on the channel, so please check them out. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video. All hail the eternal Storyboros.